Oh my gosh, we're so excited to have you join us for the Libra solar month. So much happening. And one of the things that's really fun about the Libra solar month is it starts with the September equinox. So that means it's the autumnal equinox in the northern hemisphere and the spring equinox in the southern hemisphere, and a shift in the seasons. And we're already feeling it. Amazing here in Tucson, Arizona. I'm sure you can agree with me, Nura, on this one. It's like the days are still pretty hot, but the mornings are cool and amazing. It's really fun to go out and be outside now in the early morning. So that shift in the seasonal energy, and when the sun reaches 0 degrees Libra, astronomers and astrologers, tropical astrologers, agree that that is the equinox point. It has to do with the seasonal cycle. And I've been contemplating, I was trying to find my book that I have it's either The Secrets of the Golden Dawn or The Sacred Order of the Golden Dawn or The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. I can't remember the title of it. But I remember reading in that book years ago that their equinox ceremonies were super important to them because it's when the sun is rising due east and setting due west all across the planet. And so it goes in this direct east-west line, no matter where you are, and it lowers the magnetic field of the earth. So we have access to other realms and dimensions. And so they did their ceremonies in honor of that and accessing that and taking that opportunity to access that. So this is something that we can also do. We don't necessarily have to do what they were doing and how they were doing it, but we can be with the rising sun, the setting sun, the sun as it's moving across the sky as well. And it was in Chaco Canyon, one of the sites, Pueblo Bonita, I believe, where they had the road going due east and due west, and the sun would track along that road all day long at the equinoxes. And that was important to them. So these timings are valuable for us to tune into and to connect with. And what's also interesting about this equinox is that the moon, there's a first quarter moon the day before on September 22nd. Well, okay, so 11:50 p.m. Pacific time is the exact equinox moment, meaning that it's the 23rd, September 23rd for most of the people around the planet, except for people that are west of the Pacific time zone. And on the day before, early, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time, is a first quarter moon. At the 29th degree of Sagittarius is where the moon is, and the 29th degree of Virgo is where the sun is. And so this is a powerful activation taking place. And then when the equinox is exact, the moon will have moved to be around, I think 6 degrees Capricorn, out of bounds. So it's an out of bounds first quarter moon, outside the boundaries of the sun, where the sun can go furthest north and furthest south on the equator. And it adds an unpredictable factor, like a wild card factor, to this timing. So that it's suggesting to me that, okay, so at the equinox, this is when we can tune into things that are beyond ordinary reality. With the moon out of bounds, we can also, so the sun and the moon are supporting us in this amazing, magical, like, whoa, definitely, if you do nothing else, just go and be with the sun. But ideally, have some intentions, have some ways of how are we bringing in the new earth? So those are the thoughts I have about that, and I'm going to pass this on.
I love the clarity that it feels like we'll be stepping more into this Libra season. We still have a lot of planets retrograde, so there's still a very reflective energy, but I've had my eye on the sun opposing Neptune, and it feels like as soon as coming onto this official side with Sun and Libra, coming to the other side of that opposition with Neptune, that maybe we get to come into a little bit more clarity, and maybe it's through those conversations Libra being so much about mirroring and projection and really seeing what is actually happening around me. What are all of the signs and symbols around me? And I always think of with Libra, it's like this rest moment, this resting of the scales, resting in the balance, so we can be resting in relationship almost. And there's a fascinating energy. I know we're going to talk a lot more about this as we keep going today, but the Mars in Libra, Mars has been in his fall sign. So it's not the place where he has the most fire. He doesn't have the most action orientation. He's sort of like in the opposite of his usual home, which can actually be nice. Like, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's like, well, actually, it's amazing to take a rest and take a pause and maybe regroup and gather our forces internally and really see, like, what are these relational resources that we have around us. So I'm really looking forward to that element of this season. And it feels like as we enter the season, there's this grand trine happening between Ceres, Vesta, and Saturn, all in water signs. So it feels like this potential to actually move some emotional energy, but with the holding the space from the logical mind. There's a very beautiful, almost masculine, logical holding for the feminine. We were talking about that a little bit earlier before hopping on, and the goddess asteroids feel so prevalent for this season as well. As we enter with the sun in Libra, the sun is conjunct Pallas Athene, goddess asteroid of creative intelligence. And also in Libra, there's a lot of that harmonizing of masculine and feminine, even within her own nature. And then Venus is still with Juno, goddess asteroid of soulmates, commitments, and maybe updating our karmic agreements relationally. So all of this together, it just seems like a really beautiful, supportive time for relationships, whether you're in a relationship, kind of going back and healing things or feeling supported in new ways, or if you are in new relationships, almost starting maybe with this more firm, more internally empowered foundation of emotional intelligence. That is really the energy that I'm picking up for the as we enter Libra season, which I'm very much looking forward to.
Oh, I love that. And that just makes me think of, the Libra equinox, right? All the equinoxes and solstices are when the sun moves into cardinal signs, which is like new energy. And it feels like we have this opportunity to move to like a new rung of the spiral, and how we do, or how we are, how we be, in relationship. And a few things that, some big themes, I think, because one, there's this working out old karma, but also to simultaneously create space for new energy that comes through relationship, because the South Lunar Node is in Libra right now. And anytime the South Lunar Node is activated, which really, we have this big activation with, as the sun moves into Libra and we're in this Libra season, when the South Node is activated, we're working out and we're clearing out old karma. We have an opportunity to look at old patterns that are no longer serving us and to release them, which simultaneously creates space for all this new energy, right? Where the North Node is in Aries as well. And with Mars, right, the ruling planet of Aries with the South Node at the time of the Libra equinox, there's this invitation to kind of heal our relationship with our Mars energy, right? Our masculine energy, but also with the Libra energy as well. So where have we been giving ourselves away in order to belong or be accepted in relationship? Where have we been kind of stepping into other people's projections of us, or what other people want of us, kind of like being a chameleon and molding into that? There's this energy to, with that North Node in Aries and Mars at the South Node. And maybe where have we had like passive aggressive patterns because we haven't wanted to, step into our authenticity, or to maybe be bold or courageous and who we truly are. So there's this invitation to release, like maybe where have we had passive aggressive or even aggressive patterns in relationship, and to more boldly and courageously embody who we truly are in relationship and allow our relationships to support that. And my mind is like, my mind is a little scattered. Many of you knew I just had a baby in August. So I'm like a little bit nonlinear and how I'm thinking now, but also with that Mars with the South Node, and then like kind of in opposition to the North Node in Aries, we're also going to be working out, I sense, this Libra season, this invitation, Neuro, like you said, clarity is this energy of Libra season 2, right? The air sign, the mind. Where have we been stuck in indecision? Kind of like teetering back and forth, maybe not wanting to like go for something, maybe old patterns, old versions of ourselves, keeping us stuck in indecision, just constantly weighing the pros and cons and not ever like, stepping into moving forward. And there's this invitation to release those old patterns. And then as we're, moving into, we're going to have an Aries full moon, then we'll have this Libra new moon solar eclipse, this energy with that North Node in Aries to just kind of like boldly and courageously say, yes, this is like the path I'm going, to instinctually just lean into it and have that, Neura, you've been speaking about self-trust with that North Node in Aries. And, with Pallas Athene, the sun conjunct Pallas Athene at the moment of the equinox, there's this invitation for new creative ideas, creative thinking, new creative ways to see things, to bring more wisdom into our relationships. We've been in a big relationship kind of purging of several different things in the energy here of the astrology over the last few months, and we're still in that. Like you may have had old patterns come up in relationships that you're like, wow, I thought I kind of had healed past that. And you might have noticed like old things coming up, and maybe with like a fury, and they're coming up for us to take a look at them and fully heal. Sometimes when we move up to a new spiral, when we get to that place where we're kind of going up to a new spiral, we feel like, oh my gosh, I've gone backwards. And I've like, it's like, oh my gosh, have I had any healing? I've gone backwards. But usually what's happening is we're about to move to another major up leveling. And I see that because Venus, her temple is Libra. She's a ruling planet of Libra. She's in Leo conjunct Juno, like you mentioned, Nura. So we're, in the South Node, also in Libra, we're redoing, we have an opportunity to renegotiate soul contracts, right? Maybe we've come to karmic completion with some soul contracts and to move into new soul contracts. And with Venus and Leo, it's like relationships that light us up, where we can let our light shine, where we let others let our light shine, where there's not that competition, where we're inspiring each other to show up with our radiant light and to be the creatrix energy. Venus squaring Uranus, there's this big breakthrough, break free energy. So I mean, there's a lot of karmic energy here to have major up leveling in relationships.
I love all of that. And I feel that in a way, this month is preparing us for the following month, that is the eclipses, that it will be the same theme again in a way, because we will have Libra and Aries, and we are working with these two for a while. So I feel like the whole beginning of this month, we can have insights in what you were all saying, like the self-trust, and like any relationship, first start with a relationship with yourself. And that is how Libra needs so much of Aries, and Aries needs really to see yourself through the other. And I feel that Mars is like everyone is going through an initiation, because our ability to take action, our ability to really have desires and to go for what we want, and to really say no when something is out of balance. And Libra is that cosmic order of the relationship with the other, but the relationship with the cosmos and the relationship with the sacred. And I always love that the constellation behind Libra is the priestess. So Mars is taking action towards the balance with the feminine. But now, in a way, the masculine has been a little bit out of balance. We have been doing so much healing in the feminine that I think the masculine, and this is beyond men and women. This is our ability. Like if you go a lot into the spirituality, sometimes the Mars energy of just primal force to go for whatever you desire sometimes gets a little bit like, how do I do this and be spiritual at the same time? So I think the martial arts are amazing for that. And this whole Mars approaching the South Node, squaring Pluto, first the equinox start opposing Chiron. So it's like one after another, right? So it's opposing Chiron, and then it's getting towards South Node, and then it's Pluto, and then it will go in November, it will have like a conjunction with the sun starting a cycle, depending on how we see it. So it's like I really think that taking action and exercising or doing qigong or any energy work that truly move anger and rage, because like sometimes anger, the other day I was listening that anger is just the sense of being powerlessness, like you don't have power. So then you see any injustice and you feel you don't have power, and then you get angry. And with Libra, that's the injustice. Like you see something is out of balance and your Mars doesn't feel you can do anything about it. So then looking at our own anger can really show us where is it that we don't feel power, and how can we do practical things and also with the body to really move the energy and to really say we are super powerful, like as human beings. And the cosmos really remind us all the time that. So it's like the conditioning of culture that keeps that. Also Libra, Aries, I always feel it like Aries is the wild, primitive, savage kind of, and I have 3 planets in Aries, so it's kind of like I can say it. And then Libra is more sophisticated, like is going into a city and is beauty and is art. And how can we balance these two? How can we still enjoy the beauty of civilization and the beauty of sophisticated, like Paris, things like that, and at the same time not to lose our wildness, and how the masculine primal energy has been really, like it needs a lot of healing, I feel. And this is an opportunity, the whole until December, well, the whole nodal axis, Aries, Libra, right? Like we have a long time to really tap into that force of nature that we are.
That's beautiful. I love this so much. And thinking about how the nodal axis is still being squared by Pluto within 10 degrees until December, I think, or January, something like that. So that the Plutonian aspect of like seeing the shadow, being able to transmute, transform, do the alchemy, so that we can come into a better relationship with ourselves, with the planet, with each other. So good. I was having a conversation the other day here in Tucson with a couple of women, and we were talking about the masculine wounding and how we've each dealt with it in a different way. And I often love to say, I'm in my 3rd marriage, married to my best husband ever. I call him my BHE, best husband ever. And over the last few years, I've had an opportunity to do some deeper healing with the masculine that's not with him, because he's not representative of that to me. But there's been other ways that that's been coming up for me, and goes all the way back to the wounding I've had with my father, where I was never good enough. I was never going to amount to anything. I was lazy, good for nothing, and would never amount to anything. That was the mantra that I was told a lot growing up. But I have this relationship where I am now loved and supported in ways that I never even knew were possible. And what they said to me about that was, because they're both single, they both, are looking at wanting to have relationships going forward, is that oh, you don't necessarily have to heal every aspect of your masculine wounding to be in a good relationship. So I just wanted to share that piece too. And with Chiron opposite Mars, and conjunct this conjunct the North Node, coming up to conjunct the North Node, and opposite the South Node, and all of this energy that's here to help heal that relationship between the masculine and the feminine that's within us, and that's also outside of us. So good. And then we have this full moon in Aries coming up on the 29th of September. And it's the fourth super full moon in a series of super full moons, meaning when it rises, it's biggest, it's brightest, it's closest to the earth. It has its biggest impact on the tectonic plates of the earth, the tides, the weather patterns, things like that. But also because it's so spectacular to see the moon rise or set when it's in that perigee closest to the earth effect happening. And of course, it's an Aries full moon. Oh my goodness. So, we've got all of these amazing things happening with, and this is Mars and the South Node are very near the star Spica. And so bringing in another aspect of that is the brightest star of the constellation of the Priestess that Mara mentioned a moment ago, and also aligned with the star Arcturus, which is it is the masculine representation connection to Spica, and they travel together. They're not close to each other because Spica is close to the ecliptic, and Mars or Arcturus is actually, if you look from the handle of the Dipper, you arc to Arcturus. So if you follow the handle of the Dipper, you can get around to the bright red star that's Arcturus, and then you can spike down to Spica or take a line down to Spica. So these two stars are going to be very present at this full moon time, and as we're with the South Node hanging out here for several weeks due to the eclipses coming up. We'll talk about more in a moment. But anyway, it's the masculine, feminine, and how they work together, not only from the perspective of Libra, but also from the perspective of Spica and Arcturus. Arcturus helping to support Spica in doing what it is she's here to do, and vice versa. So very cool.
I love all of these stories, and especially what you said, Kaylin, around it's like we don't have to heal every single thing in order to have a good relationship. And I think that's really true of so many things. Like, what if we are needing some support around healing our confidence or our sense of self-love, or to be creative? It's like we don't have to have it all figured out before we start taking some steps or, go after what we want. And I do think that's what the North Node in Aries is generally trying to teach us, is to trust ourselves and trust our process, and understand that there probably will be a little bit of discomfort in that growth edge. That's true anyways. Anytime there's a North Node, it's like the uncomfortable place. But now Chiron is there, and it's extra uncomfortable. It's like going a little bit more into the wound. We have to be a little bit more intentional and dive right in. But I think that Aries is a really great armoring to be wearing, because you never know with Aries. There's no rule book. There's no guarantee of how things are going to turn out anyways. And so if you kind of go in with that, it's almost like the Fool in the tarot, right? You go for it, you try it, you learn through feedback, you learn through the response from others. And so I think that that's actually a really beautiful energy to be leading us through this month. We have so many different squares going on, squares to Pluto. So Mars is square Pluto from Libra October 8th, and then we have Pluto direct October 10th at 27 degrees Capricorn. Then that same day, October 10th, the Sun is opposing Chiron, and then we've got let me just move through here. Then we, at the end of the month, right before the Sun shifts into Scorpio, October 20th, we'll have Mercury and the Sun square Pluto in Capricorn. And so it's almost like we're getting to go into some of these deeper places. Like, does everybody have their shadow bag kit ready? Because I think that's what we're going to be doing. But it feels like going in with bravery and courage and boldness, and also understanding that we're not doing it alone. I think that might be one of the biggest false ideas that maybe we get to purge and release during this new moon in Libra, the annular solar eclipse, because it will be with the south node. There's always a purging or a letting go. Letting go of something. My throat wanted to purge something. A letting go of something. And so maybe it is that idea that we're alone, or that we have to have it all figured out, or that it all has to be, you know, perfectly balanced in our pros and cons list and perfectly rational all the time, or that, you know, that we need to have it all figured out. Maybe it's more about how we are meeting life and meeting the other and meeting ourselves in all of these different circumstances. And letting go of anywhere that we are afraid to meet life.
Totally. And I really feel like the whole month has that theme, right? So this is very important. Like sometimes like the aspects are talking about the same over and over and over, and the full moon is again the same, right? Like it's the Libra. So that full moon is really interesting to tune into that, to really have a sense of what is it that we are working for the eclipses, for the whole nodal axis for a while. Because in full moons, what we have is a realization, right? Like the emotion, and when the moon is in Aries, is primal, right? So it's not something that we are going to figure it out only with the mind. That, as you mentioned, like Libra is an air sign, so we will have more like the balance and this and that. But with Aries, it's just I feel this, and why do I want that, or why in this relationship there is something off, but I don't know what it is. And trust that instinct that if we are feeling something is off, something is off. So then we can reflect more on it and do the deeper work. So I think for the full moon, the invitation in a way is to open up to that those insights that are not logical at all, and to really also trust our gut intuition when something we enter a room and we don't feel right in a room. We don't need to have an explanation for leaving and for saying no. And I think that is also something very Aries that is very important. Like if you are talking to someone and your whole being is just saying no, it doesn't matter that there is no logic, the person hasn't done anything, but there is something you are feeling in your body, in your gut, in your soul. So trusting that inner instinctual knowing, I think is very relevant. And also like in these relationships and with the full moon, can if there are arguments or things like that, something that has worked a lot for me with my triple Aries is that when I enter a confrontation, and it's something that it happens many times in my, like it's normal when you have a lot of Aries that sometimes there is this confrontation. And sometimes if you just say to the person at the moment, I won't say anything, because whatever I'm going to say is not going to be nice. So you just say, at the moment, I cannot reply. So leave me a little bit of time. That's very Aries Libra. Leave me a little bit, and it changes the energy so much. The person is already like reflecting, Libra, and saying, what is it that I have done that this person is really reacting in this way? So instead of beginning to like fight. So I think we will have a lot of opportunities to check on this and to really trust when we don't feel right in any situation, there is something there. So sometimes we need to take the space, reflect, and then we will understand what is it that it was off.
Okay, I was trying to find the unmute. Oh, I love this. And, you know, this just, I feel like this theme of this Aries full moon Sun in Libra, Moon in Aries, you know, are my relationships mirroring my present moment version of myself. And they're, like you said, Mar, a lot of, you know, full moons bring clarity. We could have clarity on our relationships, so the way we are in relationships and our habits and our patterns and our dynamics here. And I think something really interesting is Venus makes her third square, her final and third square to Uranus, which has been a dance she's been doing with Uranus that was big within the Venus retrograde. And now we're in the new Leo Venus cycle, and she's completing that third square to Uranus. So the big kind of breakthroughs and how we let ourselves show up and be seen, and relationships, and how we kind of bring our creative energy forward. But you might notice a theme between the three squares with Venus and Uranus. The first one was July 2nd. That was before Venus went retrograde. And this is significant because Uranus is in, you know, Venus's other temple, Taurus, right? Her earth goddess temple. The second square was when Venus was retrograde, square to Uranus, August 9th. And then the third one is September 29th, the day of the full moon here. So you might look back in your journal or reflect what was going on at those times. And there might be some big kind of aha moment. I mean, maybe not. There's nothing wrong if you're not experiencing that either, but it could be worth looking at. And with this third and final square, Venus is, you know, she's conjunct Juno at 22 degrees of Leo, right? So this 22 kind of like really powerful, you know, numerology number, kind of master builder, kind of building this new reality, right? And Juno, she's the goddess of partnership and commitment. One, how are we committed to ourselves and our creative energy and showing up in our light and our radiance and letting that be seen, being courageous to let our light and our radiance and our creative energy shine. But also, again, there's this really big energy I'm feeling of up-leveling our soul contracts, our karmic contracts here. So yeah, you might just kind of notice any themes there with that Venus square Uranus and the last of the three here.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. So that's gonna, I think the next place to start is with the annular solar eclipse. So what that means is that an annular solar eclipse is like a total solar eclipse, but the moon is not big enough to completely cover the sun. So it leaves a ring of fire around the edge. So in a total solar eclipse, the day turns to night, the flowers close up, it's like you have, and then you have a second dawn that happens. But in an annular solar eclipse, the ring of fire that's left around the sun means that the sky darkens, or the day darkens a little bit, but it doesn't become completely night. And there's that ring of fire, and the ring of fire is the alchemy. So we have all this alchemy that we've been talking about that's been happening with what's going on with Pluto and Mars and Venus and Uranus and all these different things that are happening. And now we're going to be able to, and this eclipse is going across the US. I will put a link to an article that I've written about it that has the eclipse map, so you can see where you can see the totality. You can see part of the annular eclipse, or you can see the whole total annular eclipse, and really see that ring of fire and the alchemy that's happening around that. I'll put that in the show notes so you can have access to that, and also a story about the eclipse and how the old stories have been told where Odin put Brunhilde in the ring of fire because she wasn't doing what he wanted. So how are we rewriting that story? And I've talked about that before, but how are we rewriting that story so that it's the alchemy of the transformational change and how the masculine and feminine can come together to work together? Because here we have the Libra new moon. So planting the seeds, and it happens to be an eclipse. So accelerating the planting of the seeds of all the themes that we've talked about around the Libra mysteries. And so that will be a super highlight of this solar Libra month.
And what I would love to highlight for the eclipse is that is a south node eclipse. So it's always like with the solar eclipses, I always feel when they are in the north node, there is such a quantum leap towards the future. So that will be more in spring next year, like in the Aries season for 2024, we'll have the solar eclipse with the north node. So that one is like, go for it. This one, it feels so much. There is this purge that we have been talking the whole time that is necessary in order to know what is it that is out of balance, so we can go. And this is individual and collectively, like how our masculine and our feminine, the relationship within ourselves, like this masculine protector energy that it takes charge sometimes and really protect ourselves and then protect the others. And how can we bring forward that energy, because he said the solar eclipse is close to everything that we were mentioning. So it's close to Spica, it's close to the south node, it's close to a square Pluto, even like it's a few degrees, but it's there. So everything that we have been mentioning is like there is this build up towards the eclipse that is the 14th of October, but it's with the south node. So the invitation here is to really release and to pay attention to what is showing up in our lives, because for each person is going to be different. But what is it within your life that is out of balance, and how can you take action with that Mars close still? How can you take action from the, and Mars will be in Scorpio already. So from the power of Scorpio, because Scorpio is so misunderstood. There are some mysteries that we are retrieving and reclaiming, and as Kajelin was saying, like we are rewriting stories. So this powerful masculine energy of Mars in Scorpio, how can that take action for life and just take action for what it needs to be composted as well? So in this eclipse, I feel always with eclipses, this bad rap that we cannot do anything and we cannot have intentions. I think it's like off, like I'm sorry, but in my own experience with eclipses has been always like quantum leaps. Like if you set intentions, you really have the universe on your back saying, come on, you go for it. But in this one, truly feels like, what is it that is weight? What weight can we just release for that quantum leap to be even more powerful?
I love that, Maud. And I think I've been asking the question, who is helping you let go? Who's helping you in your letting go process? And that can kind of put a whole new spin on all of the interactions that we have. We're very supported in the letting go. And I mentioned, maybe I did earlier, the grand trine between Saturn and Vesta and Ceres in Scorpio, but then now later at this time in the month and for this solar eclipse, Mars is now in the same spot that Ceres was. And so it's almost like Ceres kind of primed it. She primed the Scorpio space with a little bit more remembrance and like, oh yeah, we go through cycles. Everything is cyclical. You mentioned it, Jamie, the spiral. We keep coming back to it. I feel like Scorpio is always such a beautiful reminder of that cyclical nature of life. And then Mars is like, okay, well, I feel a little bit more nurtured in this space. Ceres came through and maybe did some pruning in the garden or did some other beautiful things. And now I can come through, and I really think Mars is very happy in his ruling sign in Scorpio, and it's a feminine way also of being with Mars. And so I think just kind of looping it into our conversation, we've been talking so much about this re-emerging balance of the feminine and the masculine. And I think it also happens when we see a planet like Mars in a feminine sign, but it's almost like flipping an idea on its head around how we think the feminine takes action or how the masculine takes action, how all of us take action. And with Scorpio, the energy is so much around emotional understanding and empathy and instinct. And it comes from the ability to confront life fearlessly and boldly. I was doing a meditation yesterday, and I saw the image of myself kind of going underwater in a cave. And first off, my ego mind was like, oh no, don't go down there. Like, that's terrifying. What are you going to see down there in that cave? And then I thought, well, the reason I'm doing this is to do a reclaiming of power. I'm doing this on purpose. So what would I have to believe about myself to feel safe to go down into that cave? Do I need to protect myself with golden light? Is it something like that? Do I need to be aware that I am one with all of infinite intelligence, or I have the power of God, Goddess, Great Spirit inside me? Like, anything that I meet down there, it's not going to get me. I'm more powerful than it. So I was kind of doing that, even just that visualization. I realized how interesting that I was about to stop myself to even imagine it, like to even visualize it in my mind. So then what other ways might I be cutting myself off from empowerment in my daily waking real life? So I think that we get these beautiful opportunities, especially in an eclipse portal, because it's kind of like this liminal space where we can be in the imagination. We can be in these liminal thin veil kind of spaces to, like, if you imagine that you're powerful, or if you imagine that you can create the life that you want, you really, I think you can. And then you can be shown, all of the ways that you either need support or resources in order to do that. But I love eclipse portals. I think they're just absolute magic. I couldn't agree more. I see them as this acceleration. And exactly what you said, Maud, it's like 6 months from now, what will be the new beginning that comes from the work that you're able to put in now of confronting the fear, or confronting going into the darkness.
Oh, this is all so good. And Nura, I love that. Like, who is supporting me to let go? And my interpretation of that was like, sometimes when we're triggered by others in our life, or, it's like, why are they doing this to me? And instead there might be something about like, what are they revealing within myself, and how is this supporting my evolution? And so like, look at this inner work I get to do now. So that was like, when you said that, that's what I thought of. And right before the solar eclipse, a few days before, on October 10th, we have the Venus Moon conjunction at 1 degree of Virgo. And this is the, second Venus Moon conjunction of this Leo Venus cycle. And it's in Virgo, at 1 Virgo, and it's the second gate of perception. So we have this opportunity to have this release and this clearing out, right? Because Venus is a morning star around our third eye, our sixth chakra, our intuition. Where have there been blocks to our intuition to really trust? Like, this is Virgo, to really trust our sacred body wisdom, that gnosis that comes through our sacred body temple. And it also made me think of when you were sharing about like really trusting when our body wisdom is telling us something, or however you experience intuition, claircognizance, however you experience that, clairsentience, that to really trust, what's coming through your intuition, especially, with all this Libra energy around relationships. And so Venus moves into Virgo. I don't know what day, but it's probably a day or a few days before that Venus Moon conjunction 1 degree of Virgo. So we'll have Venus moving through Virgo, which is this invitation to really, Virgo, to purify our relationships, to really trust our sacred body wisdom, and to really activate that, that inner priestess as well. And just something I wanted to kind of circle back to with the equinox is that I love this practice year round, but the equinoxes and the solstices, and really the cross quarters as well, are amazing times to really intentionally go out and do this. But go out this week around the equinox and watch the sunrise and the sunset. And it's really powerful to get this intimate relationship with your local horizon line, wherever you live, or if you're you know, more nomadic wherever you are at that moment in time. But I love, as the year goes by, to watch the two equinoxes. The sun is going to rise due east, set due west. And then as we move to the Capricorn solstice, we'll see the sun rise and set a little south of due east and due west to get to that maximum point. And then we'll see the sun kind of come back to the next equinox and move more north towards the Cancer solstice. And you see the sun moving back and forth like this on your horizon line. So we're going to be at that center point, and to have your feet on the earth, to receive the first light of the day, to watch that sunset. There's this amazing, you know, speaking of this kind of third eye energy, there's this, like, this amazing pineal gland activation when we kind of get that sunrise and sunset energy, those light codes into our bodies. So there's wisdom that comes through when we're really engaging, when we're Virgo, right? We're that body temple between the earth and the sky.
Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. I hope everyone, I know we all are hoping everyone has found this to be supportive and helpful and guiding you into this new solar month, which has so many amazing things. And thank you, Jamie, for bringing up the Venus moon gate at the third eye chakra. I just learned today, and Sekhmet is very much part of this Venus cycle, that she is the most connected to the third eye chakra gate. And so I was just like, oh, I got to remember to bring that in, and I completely forgotten. So anyway, so thank you, everybody. We look forward to seeing you when we come together for the Scorpio solar month. And also, as Mar pointed out to us earlier, we're a year into doing this. So just celebrating how we've been coming together for the last year to bring you these insights and hopefully support you in your journey through each of the solar months. So bye, everybody.
Bye. Love you all.